Okay, everyone, welcome to QFloors webinar. This is session 2 of the QFloors Basic Training Seminar, the monthly training seminar that we have held at our offices, and we covered the basic day-to-day usage of QFloors in that seminar. Last week we looked at the Getting Started checklist, which is in the Quick Start manual, and also the General Ledger Conversion section that's also in that manual, and then we looked at the setups in the QFloors. Today what we'll look at is day-to-day transactions. We'll start off with inventory a little bit and then dive into how to create a sale and then more on inventory, how to get things created to be ordered, how to order and receive and get a job scheduled and installed. Well, if I had the right database open there. There we go. Okay, last time we looked at setups, as I mentioned. Today we're going to start off with some inventory discussion. We sell inventory, so to me it seems if we understand this screen just a little bit before we start doing a sale, it'll help us as we create the sale. The product screen is a list of actual physical goods. Everything in here on the left-hand side in your list window is an actual order of product. If we click on an item, we see the details on the right-hand side. You see an actual quantity, what was a PO number, and side mark. All the details about this. We can click the Show Next page and see other details. When was this received? So everything in this screen represents physical materials. These materials can have a few different statuses. Over on the right hand side in the status field, purchase orders, back order, on order, stock, and gone. An item with a purchase order status displays in the purchase order list. These are the things that need to be ordered. Things with an on order status showing the on order list. We've ordered them, but they're not here, and then the stock items are here in our possession. The status of the material as we start creating the sale, the status of the material will determine certain statuses on your invoice line. So that's an important feature to pay attention to and understand, and we'll point it out as we go along. To create a new piece of inventory, there's two ways to do that. For a special order item, something that we need to order specifically for a job, it's not something that we stock all the time, we just need to order it for this particular sale. We'll look at that process later. Right now I'm just going to show you briefly how to create a product that we need to order for stock, to reorder some pad or reorder some tile, something that we keep on hand all the time. And this is also for anyone who's new to QFloors. This process I'll show you here next would be how you enter your existing inventory. You're getting started with QFloors. You've got a cutoff date coming up in a few days or a week at the most. You've got to get that inventory in your system. Everything that's out in the warehouse, those bottles of cleaner that are in your showroom, all that stuff needs to be entered in. So to do that, you're in the product screen. It really doesn't matter which tab you're in. The status you give it will put it into the whatever tab is associated with that. But you'll click the New button to start with. Then we fill in the blanks. We can click the arrow and scroll down and select something, or we can click in the box and just type. When you select the manufacturer, then you're seeing just the items, the style names that are associated with that manufacturer. When you select the color, then it pulls from the product catalog your cost, any retail price you've given it in the catalog. It knows what type of material it is. It knows the width or the square feet per carton. We emphasized that last week. So going down from where we were at, we selected a color, pressing tab or enter. We want to change this to stock. If I'm entering my existing inventory now to get started with QFloors, you'll type a letter S, or you can select it with your mouse and press enter. If you're creating this for a stock reorder, then you'll leave it at purchase order status. The ideal in our software is to create these products before you order them, not after the fact. Now that's not always going to happen. Sometimes you're talking with your rep, and an order just gets placed, and then you'll come back and put the item in the software, and you'll give it an on order status because that's what status it's in at the time. But generally you create it before you ever order it and give it a purchase order status. You can select the vendor name here or not. It's not required. SKU number, if this was a product that came, the style name and color name were given to us from a B2B vendor, the SKU number would be filled in for you. That number there is required if you're going to do ordering through B2B. PO number. Obviously, when I clicked new and filled in the blanks, QFloors did not give it a PO number, so we need to give it one. When you create an item for a special order, and that process, again, we'll look at that later, QFloors will give it a PO number for you. My recommendation here for stock orders, I would give it today's date as my PO number, maybe my initials, and everything I order for stock purposes today has that PO number. And it doesn't hurt the software, affect ordering or receiving or billing or anything like that by having items from various vendors with the same PO number. It actually works pretty well in my opinion. I don't recommend at all to give everything that's ordered for stock, don't give it a PO number of stock. Other places in the program, when you go looking for PO number and you've got the word stock 100 times, it just pollutes it. It makes it too difficult to work with. So use today's date is my recommendation, or if you have a PO book and you want to continue using that, use that for your stock order items. I don't think that's necessary, but we do have some customers that do that. Reference number, that will populate when we place the order. Side mark, here's where I would type in stock. You can type in an original quantity, or over in your length. In this case, this is some laminate. The length portion of the measurement would be the number of boxes when this is a hard surface product, such as tile, laminate, hardwood. So how many boxes am I going to order if this is for stock? It's 23.8 square feet per carton, 25 cartons, 595 square feet. So that's how you create an item to reorder for stock purposes, or when you're entering your existing inventory when you're brand new with QFloors. So that's the basics of the product screen. Now, selling products, the invoices screen. To reemphasize a few things that we looked at last week under setup, locations, you might have multiple locations created. If you do, then you need to select the appropriate location before you click the new button to start a new sale. Creating a new sale, like the product screen, it doesn't really matter which tab you're in, but the status of the invoice when it's saved will put it into one of the lists. We'll look at these list tabs as we go along, and I'll point out how does an invoice get into one tab versus another tab. So to start a new sale, we click the new button. It starts us off with the sale date up at the top right. You can leave it there as it is. You can type in a new date. Maybe the sale started yesterday. Press enter and it'll fill in the slashes, the year for you. Next, install. If you know when it's going to be installed, you'll type a date in there. If you don't, skip it. But when you do schedule that, when you talk with the customer and you put it on your calendar, or if you're using our QSCHED program, then the date will get put in there for you. But when you're scheduling it manually and on the phone, make sure you come back to this invoice and type in a date. Sales rep, your salespeople are listed in this list alphabetically by last name. If there's a second salesperson, you can select their name or leave it blank. When I press the enter key from this field or the tab key, it's going to take us over here to the last name field on the invoice. But there's an intermediate step. When we press enter, we get this contact lookup, and it's searching for either contacts or customer accounts. If you'll remember from last week, contacts are walk-in customers. The customer accounts are repeat customers, people that you've added into the customer account setup because they purchase from you on a regular basis. You can search by their phone number or any of these fields here. If you type something in and press enter and it doesn't find it, that's fine. Just click cancel, and then you'll type in their name, address, phone number, and their details. If you press enter, let's just type something here, and it finds something, and you double click that, then it will populate the details of that contact or customer account over into the header of the invoice. Double click. I'm going to start over on this. I want to show you one other feature for selecting a customer. We have our date. We'll schedule it later. Our salesperson. We press enter from here. If you know that the customer that you're creating the sale for is one of your repeat customer accounts, you can search for them in here. Might be easier sometimes to cancel from this window, and this last name field is a list of those customer accounts. And again, you can just start typing and it'll find the one. You press enter or click it, and then it fills in the details. Email address. If you're using the Q Reporter program, that's really helpful. You can email your invoices out of Q Reporter. Press the enter key. Is this going to be delivered or installed at that same address? Well, this being a construction company, probably not. If this were a cash and carry sale, probably not. So I'll click no. And then the last name field on the ship to side is part of your side mark. If you were to create inventory, a special order item for this job, the side mark would be a combination of last name on the sold to side and last name on the ship to side. So with this being a construction contract, you know, we could put a little detail in here about the project. This is the Sunflower Apartments, and maybe I'm not sure what I did there. Maybe in the first name fields, this is unit. Or if it were a larger project, maybe this is the 5th floor carpet or the 2nd floor tile, whatever part of the project this would be. Any other details about the job site, what the address is, any other phone number you need, fill those in. Simple enough. The only really tricky part or thing to work through on the header is how to use that contact lookup. Are you looking for a customer account? You want to look for it in this box here, or use the contact lookup window to find them. If you type in a customer in the sold to fields that is not already in your list of contacts, or they're not already in your list of customer accounts, if it's a contact and when you end up saving the invoice, a message will come up on screen asking if you want to add this person or this company to your list of contacts, and you click yes. If this is a new customer account, I'm not sure how I got that. If this is a new customer account, you can select this box, before saving, and then when you save, it'll open up the customer accounts setup window and you can add them in. Okay, back to the body of the invoice. So we filled in our header information, we've pressed tab or enter, it moves us box to box as you fill things in. Pressing enter from here will take us down into the body of the invoice. The invoice lines have 3 rows or 3 sections. The first row has your line number and then the status field, and this is one I'll point out as we go along how the software helps you manage this, or it will manage it for you in most cases. And then comments. Comments about the materials on the middle row, or the labor on the third row. General comments you can put down in the comment field at the bottom, or there's this notes tab that you can use to type in maybe some internal notes about this sale, or you can type out a paragraph style invoice. We agree to furnish and install, and list out some things and type it out how you want it to read for the customer. If this notes page is on screen, when you click the print button, the notes will print out on the body of your invoice page. If the lines are showing when you click the print button, then you'll get the detailed line items on your invoice. So pressing tab or enter from this phone box will take you down into the line items, and notice that it skipped that status field. We want you to skip it. You press enter again, it skips the status field. We want you to skip that box. Again, I'll point out as we go along how the software manages that for you most of the time. And there will be times where you select it yourself. Comments about this line. Probably in most cases you'll indicate here what rooms this particular flooring is going into. Maybe this is going into the family room. Press tab or enter, takes us to the style field. You can start typing in a style name and it'll find it in the list. Or you can double click that style field and it will open this product search field. In this window you can select the manufacturer first and then see a list of all of their styles and the colors for that style. Another thing you can do in this window is type in a particular style number. Type one in, press the enter key, then it fills in the blanks. Okay, so I'm going to select this style and color, click the update invoice, and it fills in the lines for me. In your quantity field over here, it highlights the width or the square feet per carton if it were hard surface. I'm going to press the right arrow key on my keyboard, jump over to the right of that, and type in my length. Press enter and then it calculates your square footage or square yardage. The retail price is coming either from the catalog if we have a price in there. That's the first place it'll get a price if you've typed it into the catalog manually. If not, then it will use one of the formulas automatically. So if I switch this, we get a different price. I know that there's a price in the catalog for that particular style. Or you can type in a price of your own. If you know that you stock this, you'll want to come back to this product number field and select from your inventory. Here we have 5 different orders of this particular material. The first data here is your product number. If we come over to the product screen and do a quick search here for that same style, let's go to the All Products tab, and we see products 1, 2, 12, 14, and 37, and we see the same thing over here. The next information is the reference number, and then the 2-letter code for the location of where that material is physically located, coming from your locations. MA is where that's located, the main store. And then what you see next is the physical quantity that's available. There may be more in the warehouse physically, but we only have 272 square feet available there, or 556 available here. Now, between the two, we can satisfy that 696. If we click one of them that's not enough, another window, oh, we got to save this. I always forget that part. And then we need a payment. Do we want to save this as a proposal? No, not yet. So we need to enter a payment. We'll say that we're going to do an override. And add that payment. Now I can select this inventory and press enter, and we open this little window. In here we can select multiple pieces of inventory to satisfy the quantity needed on that invoice line. Maybe I've looked at the measurements and I can take some of the 272. We'll take 200 square feet there and press enter and add product. That'll leave 72 square feet for other jobs, and the rest I can take all of it, the other 496 needed, add product, save the changes and close. So there we see the word split on that invoice line. The labor portion of the line, if we know who's going to install it, we can select the name there. If you don't know yet, we'll skip it and select it later. Type, labor type. These are coming from your predefined labor type setup, what we looked at last week. You're not able to just type anything you want in here. It has to be selected from the list. We'll select the labor item. Again, it gives us a retail price coming from the labor type setup. We can change that if we want. And there's line 1 filled in. Line 2, I'm going to select the same style and color to set up some scenarios when we look at ordering materials for this job. Let's just type in, rather than type in a length, I'm going to type in just a quantity here. We can come back over to the product. Sorry, let's do a different quantity. I just want to show you that you can select an item. If it's enough, it's enough. Just select it, press enter. We'll probably need some carpet cushion, some pad. I forgot what quantity we had here. And we don't have enough pad. I don't need to indicate labor here because pad labor is usually included in the labor for the flooring itself. Some other scenarios that could happen. Let's type in a style name. We'll select this Jakarta wood here. The style name is in the product catalog. We see that because it's in the list of styles there. We'll select the color. And we can use the right arrow key and type in the number of boxes if we've already calculated that out ourselves. Or when you get to this field, maybe you've measured the rooms that this flooring is for, and you have a particular quantity that you know, or the area that that's going to cover. And we type in that quantity, press the enter key, and we jump back to this and we see we need 41 boxes and part of another box. If we don't split open boxes, then we need to change that to a full number of boxes, 42 boxes. So what I would do is switch this to the lineal feet, number of boxes, change this to 42, press enter, switch this back to square feet. We can select some labor. Another scenario would be this. If we type in a style that just doesn't even exist. So there's some carpet. The style name is not in the catalog anywhere. We can give it our unit of measurement ourselves and type in a retail price. I'm sorry, that's quantity. Okay. So filling out an invoice, the body of it is really pretty straightforward. You have your style name and color name, quantity, give it a price, your labor, price it out. Just keep going line by line by line. And we save our changes. Taking a payment, we plugged in that override payment. If we're actually receiving a payment from the customer, we'll type in a description. Maybe it's a check, and we'll type in what the check number was and what type of payment, what date, what amount, and add payment. If they're paying with a credit card, you want to type in what type of card, what brand of card, Visa, Amex, MasterCard. Maybe the approval code off the ticket. We'll select credit card. I want to point something out. There is a service called XCharge that's a credit card processing. If you click this swipe card button, a screen will come up. It's actually a page on our website that will give you a phone number, give you details about contacting them. You can get pricing, find out what their service is about, and from what I understand, their rates are really good. Their software integrates with QFloors. There'll be a little handheld device. You can swipe the card, and it'll plug the payment right into the payment window here for you. Cash payment, probably don't need a description. Just type it in. Add payment. There are other payment options here, debit card, credit card return. Those things really function the same as credit card and work with that XCharge service. The finance one we've looked at, if your financing company is going to fund you right away, you can select that option, or maybe a check option. Just plug in the payment. If you're going to get funded later, I would do the finance option with a zero amount. If you have put into your setup that you require a minimum deposit. If you don't require a minimum deposit, you don't really need to do a finance payment just to save the invoice. Interest payment, if we are adding interest to this invoice manually, that would need to be a negative amount to add interest. And then you select what account. There would be some interest income account, and add that payment. The discount payment type really functions the same way, and it allows you to select an account. The way you would use a discount payment option, a few different reasons. Maybe there's a balance on a sale that's you've tried to collect and they're not paying, and after a long enough time you're going to write it off to bad debt. That would be one way, so you type in the balance here. Another way is advertising or some other trade. If you're trading for some service from whoever's purchasing from you, you can posting advertising. They've billed you for $1,000 worth of advertising that they've provided so far, but you did the flooring for them, a $19,000, $20,000 flooring sale. Well, I'll post here how much service they've provided for me so far, and add payment, and then in your description you're seeing here what did you type as your description, what was the account selected, if it was discount or interest type of payment. When you end up depositing these payments, you'll see a deposit number in this column here. Those are your invoice payments. Job costs. Click the JC button at the top. That opens this job cost window on the right hand side. And if you're doing commissions, there's your commission amount. Remember, the commission is calculated based on this upper margin here, 54.69% on this job. However, we typed in a style name and color name that does not exist in the product catalog. Therefore, the software does not know what this cost. So that 54% profit margin, 41% net profit after commission, it's not quite right yet. Once we create the inventory for that line and assign a cost to it, then that will carry over to here and our margin will become more correct. Your shipping cost, that comes from the product catalog. If we have freight entered in there, it also comes if we've selected inventory the way we did on lines 1 and 2. We selected actual inventory, and if there's a freight cost on those products in the product screen, then that carries over to the invoice. And then this overhead dollar amount, that's coming from setup miscellaneous. We looked at this last week. We have a product overhead margin that we're wanting to throw in on every job. It takes the cost of all the products, adds them together, times that rate, and gives you an overhead factor. It's just a calculated number. It doesn't post anywhere. It's just to increase the cost sum to account for costs that that you incur for managing your inventory, product overhead. That in turn decreases your margin, which in turn would affect and decrease the commission. Then you have your product cost and labor cost, line by line by line. And here's the subtotal of costs and the tax cost. Now this particular sale I created in this main store location. We're going to go to Setup, Locations, and Sales Tax. Just to reemphasize this, the use tax law, which is for most states, 30 or 32 states uses use tax law. And so because there's labor on this invoice, there's no tax for the customer whatsoever. I do have a 4% miscellaneous charge. Call it what we will, but it's not a tax. Over here, the $218.04 would be your use tax, what you as a company are paying out on the cost of materials. And QFloors calculates that, so you would not be having your vendors add tax on your vendor invoices. You could discontinue that, and economically that's in most cases a good financial move, so that you're not paying that tax any earlier than you have to. Let's not pay it until we're finished with the job, rather than paying it up front when we buy the materials. If we had created the sale under one of these other locations where we're taxing the materials and the labor, then the entire subtotal would have gotten taxed. Or materials only location, then it would have added up all the material lines, the retail values, and taxed them, and then added all the labor in after the fact to give you a total. Keep in mind with this materials only location that when you create a sale, in order for the QFloors to tax it correctly, you must give it a price on at least one material line and one labor line, so that it knows where the materials are to get taxed and to not tax the labor. You can't really just dump it all into one line as a $19,000 amount on one line and expect QFloors to know how much of that was labor. You have to break it out. And that's the basics of creating an invoice. Todd, what is your question? Do we have Todd there?
He said this. This is his question. Are the payment methods set up with corresponding GL accounts?
Okay, excellent question. Todd's question is, are the payment methods tied to any specific GL accounts? They are in a generic sense. When you post a payment on an invoice, we'll go look at it. We're going to click Edit, then General Journal Entry. And we see here my invoice 49, today's date, and here are these various payments. Payment 49-1, that's payment number 1, payment 2, 3, and 4. So if we look at this one, and I don't remember if it was check, cash, or credit card. That's actually the finance one. It's zeros. It's posting it to this undeposited funds account and a customer deposits account. Well, they're both zeros, so there's really no effect. Let's look at one that actually has some amounts. So undeposited funds, an asset account was debited, and this customer deposits liability account was credited. When you go create the checkbook deposit to take that check to the bank, QFloors will credit the undeposited funds account and debit the bank account that you posted it to. When you complete the sale, you no longer potentially owe that money back. This customer deposits account is a liability. It's simply the money received on jobs that are still in process. When we complete this invoice and it goes to a completed status through job costing the line items, QFloors will debit the customer deposits account and credit sales. So on all of these payments here, you'll see there's no specific tie to a type of account related to Visa or a specific bank account. You create your bank deposits in the checkbook screen. You might have multiple bank accounts, and so we are not assuming or tying payments to any bank account. You go create your deposits. Okay, moving on.
And Angie Perez has a question.
Hello, Angie. Angie Perez?
Yes.
What is your question?
How do you get to the general ledger from the invoice again?
How do we get to the general ledger or the general journal entry?
General journal entry.
Okay, so the question is, how do we get to the general journal entry that I went to too quickly just a moment ago? Sorry for going too quickly there. Under the Edit menu, and a few items down, General Journal Entry. You can do a search over here. You can type in a custom date. Or any date range. Search by entry name, payment 49, bill 46. You can type in an entry name. If you know the journal number, which would not be the case usually, but you can type that in as well. Just to answer another part of that, you weren't really asking this, but you can see a general ledger report under the reports menu for any particular account. You can go look at that undeposited funds account. I would always select an account name first and then enter my dates.
Okay.
And there's a general ledger report for that particular account. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, so we've created a sale. We set up a few different scenarios for getting materials created and ordered for this job. And we'll look at that in invoice confirmation. I guess we have a follow-up question. Todd, can you hear me? Todd has a question that he typed, but I don't hear Todd.
Yeah, no, oh, he doesn't have a mic.
Oh, you know microphone. Okay, sorry, Todd. So the question is? So the question is, what if the owner of the company wants to know how much we have granted in discounts? How are those discounts tracked? When I kind of point out here, I selected discount as a payment type and then selected a general ledger account. So you could go look at that account to see what happened there. You can also, in your invoices screen, look at invoice payments. And in this status column, I'm going to double click to open that up farther. I'm going to shrink up some other columns. You can click the status heading to sort and see discount payment types in this particular date range. You can print that. You can hold the shift key down and click to export that list, do any sort of sorting or calculations or summing up, and do things that way. That's why you can track different type of discount payments. Okay, hopefully that answers your question, Todd. After we create a sale, the next step in the overall QFloors process is invoice confirmation. That's found in the product screen. This invoice confirmation tab is on the far left-hand side of the tabs. You can use these arrow keys. If you don't see it, go farther to the left, click invoice confirmation. What we're doing here is confirming that each invoice line that needs a product actually has a product in the system. If we're just to ignore QFloors for a minute, let's assume we were running our business with handwriting invoices, maybe using some spreadsheets to do some accounting or some mathematical work. And when we write up a sale, we either need to run out to the warehouse to check stock, or maybe we've got a spreadsheet or a list of paper up front where we've kind of counted frequently and recently, how much do I have out in the warehouse? We would need to check that. Or we would need to get written into a list somewhere the items that we need to special order because we don't stock them or we're running low on stock. That's what invoice confirmation does for you. It's checking your stock for you to see if you have enough for a particular job, and if not, if you don't have any at all or we don't have enough, then it will help you to create items to be ordered. It's a daily task list. It's something you want to clean out every day. I would say maybe 10 o'clock, 10:30 every morning, and again 3 or 3:30 in the afternoon, I would do my invoice confirmation to create the items that need to get ordered and then order them. You want to clean this out at least once a day probably. Larger companies, you're probably working on it all day. What we see in the list is the invoice number, invoice 2, line 2, and line 1. If we scroll down, we'll see our job here, invoice 49, lines 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. We don't see any labor lines here. The next column is the customer name, and in parentheses we're seeing either a 0 or a number or the word split. Coming back to our invoice, here's the word split, here's a product number, or it's blank. We don't have a product number. If we click on that invoice, it will refresh it, and then those blanks are actually going to show zeros, which is what we're seeing over in the invoice confirmation list. Notice the status line by line. I mentioned I would point these out. Both of the pieces of inventory that I selected on this line, remember there were two pieces, both of them had a stock status. So this line is ready for installation. So is this one. This one, there's no product number. There's no product number here, no product number here. So those that have an order status. One thing I didn't point out is we can do a labor only line where we have no materials indicated at all. Type in some quantity. We're doing furniture moving in 2 rooms. Maybe in the comment section we can put customer will move entertainment center. That's part of your contract. That'll show on the work order for the installer. It'll show on the invoice for the customer. It's part of what you agreed with the customer. So the status takes care of itself most of the time. The little asterisk next to the status indicates that invoice confirmation has not been done on that line. That's all that it indicates. So in our confirmation list, if I refresh this by clicking the tab, it'll refresh the list. And I come down here, we don't see any labor lines. We're still seeing 49 lines 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Let's start with this first line that we created. Doing invoice confirmation is simply clicking the box. And then the software will do things for you or ask you questions to step you through what needs to be done. If we click the box here, really nothing happened except putting an X in the box. And we're confirming I'm okay with those pieces of inventory going out on that line. Line number 2. If we click the box, nothing really happens. I'm okay with that piece of inventory going out on that line. We can check off other items. And then finalize. Those drop off the list. Well, where did they go? They didn't really go anywhere in that particular case. Those products were already in the system. The product had a stock status. Maybe the product was on order, but it's linked up to be used on that invoice line, so it didn't really go anywhere. The product was already here in our on order list, or it's already here in our stock list. We're just confirming that it's okay for that item that already exists in the product screen to be used on that particular line of that particular job. Then we're left with the zeros. So let's go to this line here. Product number, or line number 3. We need 700 square feet of some pad. When we click the box, we'll get a message. It appears there may be some quantity on order or in stock. It's not enough for this particular line, the 700 square feet. If we click yes, QFloors will automatically create a purchase order for the difference. If we click no, it'll create a purchase order for the entire quantity needed. Or we can cancel and go figure something else out. I'm going to click yes. Then it asks, should QFloors go ahead and create a PO for that quantity that's needed, the 286.46. We'll click yes. And when I click yes, it's going to fill in the blanks on the right-hand side here for that product. Then we get to select, like we did on the invoice line. We're going to take all of this and all of this, save and close, and we get the word split. It even put the X in the box for me at this point. I can finalize. We've confirmed that I've got enough inventory in the system to be used for that line of that job. Some of it's already here, some of it needs to be ordered, but I'm not ordering from this list. I'm simply creating items that need ordered or reserving existing stock. We'll order things later, and that'll be done when we're in the purchase orders list. I want to point out on this pad, maybe I'm going to order more pad than what it actually created. That could be for carpet or tile or any product. It created enough for that job, but when I call and order it in, I know that I'm going to order more than that. I'm going to order 5,000 square feet. What we'll have is a balance. We show down in the details section here that particular job is using 286 square feet out of the 5,000 physically that I'll order, and we'll have 4,700 available for other jobs. On to other lines of this job. Here's this Jakarta, this wood. We don't stock it at all. The style name was already in the catalog. We just don't carry it. So when we click the box here, we get this message. We saw this when we did the last line. Should QFloors create a PO for me? For that job, there's your side mark, sold to last name, shipped to last name, style name, color name, quantity. Yes, let's order that. We have a question.
Amy Key.
I don't see a hand.
Just unmute her and say, Amy, what's your question? Amy Allen.
Amy Allen, you have a question for us?
What is the point of invoice confirmation? That's her question.
Amy's question is, what is the point of invoice confirmation? You're going to put into QFloors all of your materials, things you have in stock, things that need to be ordered. QFloors is going to help you manage that inventory. If you carry a lot of inventory in particular, the software is extremely helpful to you to know what is out there, and not just physically what's there, but how much of it is available for other jobs. So with invoice confirmation, salespeople, as you saw, as a salesperson, you can select the product number while you create the invoice. We can then, I'm doing the invoice confirmation. That's my responsibility in the company. And here's a line. I know that we stock Pebblebrook driftwood. I can also click this line, click the style name on this line, and I see here the salesperson selected product number 12 for 462 square feet. Well, I can change that. Well, I don't have enough to change, but I can switch it to another one. Let me do something here. I don't want to confuse anyone, hopefully, but I'm going to change this here. I'm going to say we ordered some really huge roll here. We're going to put, just change the quantity of that inventory. That's not a normal procedure for you. Please don't just go changing original quantities. But to give you this scenario, the salesperson selected product 12. Maybe I need to use that roll for some other purpose. I can click number 2, product number 2, and it displays it to us, and I can press the enter key on the keyboard and change the assignment. We've now moved it to product number 2. So invoice confirmation helps give you some control over which actual materials are being used on jobs. On a very, very basic level, what I said earlier is helping you make sure that there is a product in the system for this job. You don't want to get time the day before installation and realize we forgot to order this, or we don't have enough of it. That's really the main thing that this does on a very basic level, is just make sure that there is enough of this and we've got it ordered, we've got it linked up to this job, it's reserved for this job, we're not going to use it for any other job. The software now becomes your total inventory control manager. And it helps you sort out your purchase orders from your stock. What things need special ordered? What things can we just pull from stock inventory? Okay.
Joe, not sure if he's got a microphone or not. What about the side mark on the pad order? Not sure what you think.
Joe Cody's asking, what about the side mark on a pad order? I think that one that I created, if we come over here and look at our purchase orders list, and we'll see sorted numerically, the more recent items are at the top, the numbers are larger. And it created a side mark for that one particular job because I created it through invoice confirmation. And I changed the quantity. Well, you can just give it that PO number or that side mark. It came from that job. It's not going to hurt anything to leave it there, I don't think. Or you can change it yourself. Maybe we wanted to say, well, this is for stock. Even though we created it to get ordered for a specific job because we were too low, we didn't have enough. Does that answer your question, Joe? Okay.
Yes.
Joe said yes, it answers the question. Very good. Thank you, Joe. Thanks for that question.
People don't have
Okay, back to invoice confirmation. We'll scroll down to the bottom of our list, and we had created this wood for that line 4 of our job. Wanted to point out we were looking at side mark. Joe brought us to side mark. It creates your side mark here. The PO number that it created was the same as the line number that we're working on in invoice 49 line 4. Down here we see in the green detail section it's linked to be used on invoice 49 line 4. The PO number is just associated with that. When you call this order in, all you really need to give is that first part. I don't know that I would give the line number, every line number of my jobs to the order desk. When I call Mohawk, if I give them 3 different PO numbers, 49-4, 49-7, 49-8, I'll get 3 different reference numbers. I just give them PO 49. The last one here on this particular job, line 5, I typed in a style name and color name that were not already in the catalog, and you'll get that from time to time. You do your B2B downloads, and you're given all this list of style names and color names, and that's extremely helpful. You have your cost and the details about that product. And then these other vendors that don't do B2B, if you have the time, if you can get a spreadsheet from them, you can put a bunch of their stuff in the catalog with spreadsheets, or you put things in as you go. Well, here we're going to put something in as we go. It's not coming from B2B, it's not in the catalog. We click the box and QFloors will tell us, I don't know who makes this. It's not in your catalog. We need to select the manufacturer or create a new one. Okay, we'll do that. So it opens the catalog for us. So if we take, who do I want to put this under? We'll just put it here. And then it opens up this create new style window. Now perhaps the salesperson misspelled it, or they didn't give it enough detail, or they didn't follow the naming patterns that we talked about last time. You can change it. Alamo 2. Then we'll give some details. Style number. Remember the retail price. We'll normally leave that blank, let the price formulas give us a price. We can give it a roll cost, cut cost. Now this is some hard surface material or some carpet. Then, I'm sorry, if it's a hard surface material, then this would be what's our bulk cost and our non-bulk cost. Unit of measurement, what's the width? Remember, if it's square feet per carton for hard surface, we probably want that up in here as part of the name as well. But it's extremely important and extremely helpful if you'll put that in down here. Some freight cost, estimated freight cost per unit, the backing code, what type of material is it, and then create that style. Now we're adding that particular color the way the salesperson typed it onto the invoice line. And again, we can change it if they've misspelled it or if we want to add some detail to it that it needs. And some color number perhaps. All of the other details except for SKU number came from the style. The style should be the cost point. All the colors below the style in general we recommend would be the same as the style above it. The style and the colors should all be the same cost, ideally. It works if they're not, but the ideal would have them be the same. Now that we've created it, confirm this is what we want to select and use. Yes, we want to use it on this job, of course. It started from the job. Now that it's in the catalog, we get this message. Should QFloors go ahead and create the PO for us? We'll click yes, and it'll fill in the blanks on the right-hand side, give it a PO number, a side mark, a quantity. It's all there. We just haven't ordered it yet. We don't order from the confirmation list. We just create things that we need to get ordered or make sure we're reserving the existing stock products that we have on hand. And then we click the finalize button. Then we go and order things from the purchase orders list. We strongly recommend don't order anything unless you're looking at this list and what you need to order is in the list. If it's not here, don't order it. We do what it takes to get it into this list, such as create the invoice, do the invoice confirmation, Or if it's a stock order, we simply click the New button and fill in the blanks, leaving it at a purchase order status so that it shows in the purchase order list. If you follow that rule or that suggestion, then you don't forget to order things and you don't order things more than once that you shouldn't have. In this purchase order list, you can maybe narrow down the list by who am I going to call. You can sort it by PO number. I'm going to leave everything in it so that we can focus on just the items for this particular job for our training purposes here. So we have different manufacturers, different suppliers that we're calling. If we click the box on a line, it shows us the details on the right-hand side. We can make sure that our quantity is what we need. We make the phone call, we give them our account number and the details that they ask for. What's your side mark? What's your PO number? It's PO 49. Side mark is stock. Give them the details of what it is and the quantity, and then click Finalize PO. Now if there's anything else on that PO number from that particular vendor, well, here's another one down here, Leggett and Platt. And say, well, I need some of this also. PO number 1. Finalize PO. They give us a reference number and we click OK. Those are going to drop off the purchase orders list and move over to the on order list. And then we're on to a different vendor, a different phone call, or more products for that same vendor on a different PO. We click the box here, we give them the details. Maybe they tell us, well, we've got, here I need 20 square feet per box, 42 boxes. We can change the quantity if we're going to order more or less than that. Maybe they give us a different cost, or we verify our cost. You can switch this to roll or cut here. You can type in a new cost. Make sure you press the Enter key and save it. Press Enter, save the change if that's the expected cost. We've ordered it, we click the box, we finalize PO, we give it a reference number, and click OK. They give us a different size. You can change your size. Maybe we can get a roll end, get a 12 by 41. Maybe that'll save us some money. Change it to roll cost. Save our changes. And finalize PO. Just want to point out briefly, I can't show you this whole process, but you can send your orders through B2B with certain vendors, Mohawk, Shaw, Beaulieu, others. If you go to our website, go to the B2B page, and the table there of vendors indicates which ones are doing purchase orders. And I can't think of a reason to not do that. It's extremely helpful. Huge time saver. It creates efficiencies, and efficiency means saving time, saving money. Saving money means better business, paying out bonuses, growing the business. Otherwise, we'll give it a reference number. And okay, we've got a question. Okay, the question is, what if we have the same product listed in the purchase order list for different jobs? I guess we're back on invoice confirmation actually. What if we've got Pebblebrook driftwood or some Town and Country laminate or something? We've got the same thing needed for different jobs. Is QFloors going to recognize that and create enough for both jobs? It does not actually do that. It's a great idea. It might already be in our suggestion list. I'll make sure it gets added in there as a feature that we can look at adding for it to kind of check through the whole list and do something with that. Right now, you would need to recognize it yourself, and when you create the first item, then just change your quantity here to be enough for the other job. Then when you get to that other job doing the confirmation on it, it will recognize, oh, there's enough available. I don't have an example here. It would recognize, and it would just tell you, hey, I found some on order or in stock. I don't think I showed you that scenario in this list. See if I can point this out. Here's a 0. If we click the box on the line and there's enough in stock, then it will tell you there's enough. I found some other products. Would you like to select from this list that's displayed? So you would need to create, for the first line in the confirmation list, create the item, let it create it for you, change the quantity to be enough for that particular job plus the other job. When you get to the confirmation on the other job, it will give you this window. Would you like to select from this list? Click yes. Select the one that applies, press the enter key, and that puts that product number in the parentheses for that job. Having a number in the parentheses is really the only objective, the only goal in this list. Get a number in the parentheses and get it checked off and finalize. Okay, we've done our ordering. Oh, there's another question.
When ordering your product, you forgot to enter it when ordering the pad.
Okay, someone's maybe pointing out that I didn't have a cost on the pad. I did not. That's something that you want to pay attention to. I obviously didn't. We want to have a cost there. What's our pad cost? That should have come from the product catalog, but this is my demo, and I've probably tinkered with it at some point and taken my cost out. When you make the phone call to order it, you could and maybe should be verifying costs as you go. You place in the order for this particular quantity and verify it's 50 cents a square foot, it's $2.99 a foot. When you've done your purchase orders to actually order things, the invoice line statuses are changing. If we go back to our invoice here, invoice 49, those lines were already ready, but the asterisk is gone. Invoice confirmation has been done. These other lines now show on order. We've ordered them, we're waiting for them to come in. Labor only. When the products are received, we can go to the on order list. We can click a box, finalize receiving, what location, what date, and click OK. You can have multiple items checked off. Finalize receiving. OK. I want to point out partial receiving. Click the box. Finalize receiving. We ordered 42 cartons, and let's say we received 20 of those. So we click this partial receiving button. Now this is saying in square feet, but that's, remember, on a hard surface, the lineal portion is number of boxes, so we can switch it to this and say I received 20 cartons. Or we could have left it at square feet and calculated it out and typed in the total square footage received. When I click the OK button, what will happen is QFloors will take this product number 404 and change the quantity to the total square footage received and move it to a stock status. In the background, it'll make an exact copy of this and give it the next product number in line, Same PO number, same reference number, same side mark, everything the same. It'll just be the quantity will be the amount remaining, not received yet. And we saw that split scenario on the invoice lines where we can assign multiple product numbers to a single invoice line. It will take care of that for you in the background. So we click the OK button, and there it goes. Over here in the stock list, product number 404. In the on order list, Jakarta solid wood will go to on order, and we still have some Jakarta for the remaining quantity. The other 22 boxes not received yet. And if we double click this line down in here, double click, that'll take us to the invoice. On line 4, we see the word split now. We have multiple products linked up. Those two products are now reserved for that line. Same total quantity, just split out between two product numbers. Then you can do your receiving separately. When you get billed, you have two different products to link up to different bills. It works out very nicely. The next step in the overall process would be to get this job scheduled if we haven't already scheduled it. We come to the job, we do our search. If we need to do a search down in the bottom here, we're in total sales. Or, you know what I didn't point out is your tabs. This particular line is still in an on order status because we received some of it but not all of it. If any one line is not ready, the job is in order status, so it'll show in the orders tab. Invoice 49. The ready orders lists all of the lines. Now this says cut. We've installed some of it, but all the lines that are ready. Basically, there are no lines that say order or on order. Then this job is ready to go.
Paul has a question. It has to do with what we were just talking about.
Paul, you have a question. Paul, I don't hear you. If you raise your hand, if you click the raise hand button, then to us it appears you have a question. If you don't have if you're not on the phone call, if you didn't call in, then we can't hear you. Paul, is that you?
Yes, it is.
How can I help you? What's your question?
In the purchase orders, where you had put total of boxes that are still to be come in, I think it was linear foot. Should that be not each instead of linear foot?
Good question. So the question was, when I did that partial receiving, and I switched it to lineal feet. Let's see if we have another product we can work with on that. Yeah, we'll take the same product.
And the reason saying it was showing 20 cartons that were still not due, I mean still not in, and not lineal footage on the cartons, correct?
Right. So Paul's question is, shouldn't we have selected each as a unit of measurement in that partial receiving? No, because we sell that product by the square foot.
Correct.
The width in our software for hard surface products right now, the way you set that up is your width is the number of cartons, and the length, I'm sorry, the width is a quantity per carton, the length is the number of cartons. So the lineal foot portion of the screen, the way the software works,
It's still showing square footage.
Is your number of boxes.
Okay.
20 square feet per box, 22 boxes. So if we partially receive this again, finalize receiving, partial receiving, and so we could get on our calculator. If we received one box, that's easy. That's 20 square feet, and we could click OK, right? But if we ordered a handful of boxes,
But because there isn't each is what my question was.
Right, there's an each, and that's for items that have a unit of measurement of each over here. Some bullnose, bottles of cleaner,
Okay.
cans of paint, things like that. Some people sell appliances or furniture. How many of these pieces did we receive? But in the square footage world, on this particular product, the lineal foot portion here, lineal foot portion is your number of boxes. So we switch it to lineal foot, and then we tell it we receive 5 boxes this time. And so it moved that one. Thanks for the question. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and receive this last portion here. We're not going to partial receive on this one. And just click OK, and it's received. And now that line now shows line 4. All 3 shipments have come in. It's now ready. The job is a ready order status. Shows in the ready orders list. It also shows in the total sales tab. Total sales is a combination of orders, ready orders, and completed jobs. Proposals are listed separately. So we've done our ordering, we've done our receiving. Some or all of this job is ready to be installed. So we can plug in an installation date. I'm just going to use today's date. The software will pop up warnings if you do some job costing to finalize part of a job that's got a future date. We can assign installer names if we know who's going to install it. Maybe a different installer here. Time to print a work order. A recommendation we make is don't print a work order too soon. If the job changes, and that may not be very likely, but if it did change and you've got the wrong work order floating around in the warehouse, or someone's got a copy of the wrong one, maybe we make the cuts off the wrong rolls, the wrong color, things like that. So suggestion is don't print it until you really need it, which would be I'll print work orders today for all the jobs that I'm installing tomorrow. In the scheduled installs tab, you can do a custom date range, put in tomorrow's date, either tomorrow or do a custom date, and then go and print the work orders you need. We'll switch this little selection field here below the print button, switch to work order, and click print. What options do I want printed? What details do I want printed on the work order? I think I would probably leave everything checked. Sometimes some of our customers will uncheck this labor cost and or labor total. Labor cost on the printout will show the costs, in this case at $313.20 here. Other line by line labor costs, it'll show those on the printed work order. Labor total would show at the very top of the work order the total of all labor. Maybe a balance. Maybe we don't want to show the balance. Are we going to have the installer collect this $7,000 for us? If yes, then we can leave that checked. If we don't want them to deal with that at all, we can uncheck it. Do we want a signature line printed? I'm going to leave everything checked. We're going to click OK. We're going to select a different printer here, see it on screen. We'll do this one. And there's the work order. There's our labor cost per line. I must have unchecked the labor cost total, so we don't see it up here at the top. There's our balance. More details. Signature line down at the bottom here. Maybe you print 2 copies. Both of those go to the warehouse staff. You give he or she gets everything ready, makes cuts, and that comes back to you to know everything's okay. The other copy goes to the installer, and the installer gets it installed. When the installer has done the work and they bring a copy of the work order back perhaps, or at least they bring you a bill to bill you for the work that they've done, that's when you do job costing and not before. That would be the next step in the overall process, is to do job costing. Job costing is really the most pivotal, critical point in the software for a lot of things to happen. Job costing is simply closing up the invoice to say this particular line has been installed, or a group of lines. When the entire job is job costed in the body of the invoice here, the invoice will go to a completed status. And when that happens, the software will make the journal entry, the accounting entry in the background for this sale to record the sale total and the inventory cost and record the sales tax liability. Checking off a labor cost on a line sends that cost amount to a report file for that installer. So it's setting up the report so you can run a report at the end of the week to pay the installer. It's how commissions get posted to the commission report to pay. A lot of things happen with job costing, so that's really the most pivotal, critical point in the software. I would say invoice confirmation that we looked at earlier is the other, probably second most, or very close second, critical, pivotal point in the program. A lot of things have to happen ahead of invoice confirmation for it to go smoothly, and then it generates other things in the software to happen. You don't want to get behind on your job costing. Stay on top of that. That would be a daily thing. When I receive bills from installers, I do my job costing today, tomorrow at the latest, so that my accounting numbers are correct and my reports are correct. Doing job costing is simply clicking these boxes in the body of the invoice. The commission will take care of itself. We'll point that out. The ship and overhead costs, it doesn't matter if you ever check those off or not. They're estimated numbers. They don't post anywhere. They don't go anywhere. It doesn't matter if you check them or uncheck them. So we're focusing in the body of the invoice. If the installer installed this first line, this carpet here, and he charges $313.20, that's great. We can check it off, and it sends that amount to the report for that name. And we check off this box for the product. And that line goes to a delivered status. We can check the box here. That goes to a delivered status. Perhaps he billed us a different amount. Maybe he billed us $650 or $600, some amount more or less than what's here. We can right-click this and plug in the amount that we are going to pay him and click OK. We'll need to save our changes, and then we can check that box to send that amount to his report and check this because it did get installed and that line's delivered. And that's job costing. What I don't have to show you here, I don't have any product linked up to a bill to pay for it. If you see a cost here highlighted in a bluish color instead of this white, that means that cost, that product is linked up to the bill that pays for it. You really should not right-click and change a product cost. It will let you, but you shouldn't. Those costs are coming from the product screen. If the cost is highlighted blue, then it won't let you change it anyway. The cost has already been verified and locked in by the billing. Check off the last unchecked box in the body of the invoice. It goes to a completed status. We'll save our changes. And so that sale, the accounting entry just happened. It posted the sales tax liability. The commission's not checked yet because we still have a balance. When we do collect that balance, we'll add another payment here. We have some check number. and we add that payment, and then QFloors will automatically check the commission box for you, and it sends that dollar amount to the commission report for that person. Okay, that's all we're going to cover in this particular session. Next week, next Thursday, we'll look more at the bookkeeping side of things. We'll look at those reports, commission reports, labor reports, how to generate those, how to pay installers, how to pay commissions, how to pay our salespeople. We'll look at just creating your general bills, the payables that come in the mail, creating those in the system, printing out checks. We'll look at financial reports. We might need to schedule a fourth session in this basic training seminar. We'll determine that next week. If we do need to schedule another one, it would be the following Tuesday. I believe that's December 18th. But we'll let you know, and we'll post it on our website.
Question. Should we hold off?
The question is, should we not job cost a line for a product if we haven't received the bill for that product yet? I would say no. Let's follow that through. So we're going to look at bills here just briefly. Let's take this product here. Product number 1, the cost is not in a bluish tint, a bluish shade there. I'm going to double click this product and come over here and look at this and see the PO number was 032304. And that's important for when we do bills and credits. So we're jumping ahead here. We're looking at a little bit of stuff that we'll cover next week. I'm going to click the new button, and we'll put in some vendor and some invoice date and their invoice number. Custom number I don't really need. There's my terms. Inventory account. We start typing in that PO number. Click it, and that happens to be product number 1. There's a reference number. And we got billed for that. Maybe we add some freight. And we click the Save button. Now that product has been, the bill has been entered, and that product has been linked up to the bill, and we've verified the cost. And it's already been job costed. If I click on that invoice line, now that's a bluish tint. Now, if the cost had changed when I created the invoice, let's go ahead and change it now. Maybe they billed us more or less than that, and they were correct, and our 48 cents was wrong. If we were to save that bill, then it warns us, hey, the cost on the inventory is different from the cost on the bill. Should QFloors change the cost of that inventory, that PO? Absolutely yes. The invoice, the job, is getting its cost from the product. So we'll click yes here. Then we get another warning. It's already been job costed. Invoice 29, line number 1, product number 1. It's already been job costed with the wrong price, the wrong cost. You'll need to uncost it and apply it manually. It's very easy to do. We'll just need to make a note, maybe on paper. Invoice 29, line 1. So I'll write 29-1 on my notes here. And some other job has been, so 33-1. And 49-1. I'm only going to do ours. But we need to go to each of these jobs here and fix them. So we'll go back to the invoice or invoices one by one. And we're going to uncheck that cost and click yes. I'm going to change the status from delivered to ready. And watch the cost change itself. Line 1 also had some of that product selected. We're going to uncheck and yes. That one's not highlighted blue because there's more than one product and the other one is not billed yet. It's not linked up to a bill. Maybe I was wrong on that. And then we can job cost our lines again. So the question was, if the cost is not blue, should I not job cost it? I would say no, you're job costing to tell the invoice that it's installed. The cost verification will happen when you do put that bill in the system. And it'll warn you if it's a wrong cost. And then you can come and fix it. Uncheck it, change the status. Another thing that I didn't point out was in this status selection, I mentioned that there will be occasions when you will change the status yourself. One of those would be what I just did here. I uncosted it, change the status. Another would be, let's take this particular sale here, and let's take a different particular sale, and we're going to say this is a proposal. If any one line is a proposal status, when we click Save, they'll all be proposal. It's one or so all or nothing. Sorry. Yes, save it as a proposal. When we get this sale, we'll come back. We'll find that particular job in our proposals list, and we can switch any of the lines, not just line 1. We'll switch any of the lines to order, and it'll ask you want to change it all to order. Yes, anything that should be labor only, it will put it to labor only. This one's going to need a payment. Do I want to save it as a proposal? No, it's not a proposal anymore. No, it's not. So we can do our payment. Either we have a payment in our hands, some amount, or we can do the finance 0 amount to override the minimum. Another instance where you will change this status manually is this hold status. I don't want this ordered yet. We can change it to a hold status, and that will keep it from showing up in the invoice confirmation list. Invoice confirmation is where we create products to get ordered. Putting it to a hold status will prevent it from showing up in that list. But as a salesperson, I am taking control of that. When it needs to get ordered a week or 2 in advance or whenever, I need to come back and take it off of a hold status. Okay, are there any other questions? I don't see any hands raised. Okay, thank you for participating, everyone. Remember, if you want to participate in next week's webinar, you'll need to go to the registration page and register for that one separately from this one. This webinar is going to be posted on our website in the training videos section. Last week's is already there. You can go back and review that at any time. Watch those as often as you like, especially customers that are new to QFloors. Watch that, have your employees watch, and learn how to use the software. Call us and schedule training appointments by phone if you need after that. Thank you again. Thank you for using QFloors.